This afternoon's video is a rundown on the completely homemade engine dyno. Just ignore the K24 there with no head on it. Had a little issue with some carbon coming off of exhaust valves and leaving some marks in bores. But I'll get it fixed. I've got another engine. Same deal, it's a dirty unopened engine. I've got the head off of that one. I'm going to clean it up before I throw it on, and I'll get this one fixed at a later date. Now, first up, this isn't where the dyno is going to live. I needed to test it and do a few other things, and I needed to get one of these K series engines tuned properly to go back in my daily driver, because at the moment I'm driving a Lancer and it's not quite the same. Also, when I do build a room for it in the next bay, I'll probably rebuild the frame as well, because learning as you go. I would like to build a heavier frame. Not that this isn't rigid enough or strong enough. It's just I feel like more weight would be better to stop with vibrations. I had the front half and the back half of the frame. So the front half where the engine's mounted is separate to this half, which helped a lot initially. They were joined, but I'm still doing it again, which I probably will. I would definitely build it heavier, just to dampen the vibrations a bit. So speaking of learning as we go, this is the homemade water brake. This is what actually puts load on the engine. So if you don't know how a water brake works, it's got a bunch of vanes inside of it. It's got a center rotor with like pockets, I guess, and then it's got the outer housings that also has like pockets on it, so water gets pumped into it, and the engine has to accelerate that water, and then that gets thrown out to the pocket on the housing. It transfers the energy into the housing, and that happens all the way around the brake. Steve Morris has a pretty good video on it, although his is showing straight vane brakes, which are similar but not the same, but same principles. It doesn't matter. I'll put some photos up in the video so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, now that you have a rough idea of how it works, the actual brake itself, we have a flow control valve here, which is just a butterfly valve with a stepper motor, and that's how we control the load on the engine. As we want more load on the engine, we open the valve, more water, more load. And then to measure the load, we then just have a load cell off of a torque arm that measures the torque that the engine's producing. Okay, so here on the back of it, we have our trigger wheel and Hall effect sensor. The trigger wheel is just a sprocket that's been turned in the lathe and just knocked all the high points off and welded a boss in the center. And the Hall effect sensor is literally just a crank trigger from the wreckers. The whole deal was a sprocket from eBay. Bit of scrap out of the box, and the trigger cost me about $30 all up, so it was a cheap option. And trying to find trigger wheels that were not either 30 plus 1 or 30 negative 1, that were just a straight trigger wheel, because that's what we need, was really a pain in the ass. So this is what I went with. It works a treat. So that sends signal to the data acquisition unit, which is kind of the brains of the dyno. The load cell also sends its readings to the data acquisition. I'm using the yourdyno Ultimate V2, which, how do I put it? It's rather expensive, but it's really well priced compared to anything else in its class. Like, paying for it really sucked, but there's nothing else even close in that price range. So, and the software works pretty well, and it's got a huge amount of inputs and outputs for what it is. It's pretty shit hot. All right, now back to the actual brake itself, the heart of the dyno. Now, not really knowing anything about it when I started, I was kind of worried that it wasn't going to be big enough, which is why we have the shaft running out the back of it so far. The idea was that if one of these wasn't big enough, I was going to cast and machine another one, and we could piggyback them one behind another. Yeah, so I was way off with that. In reality, when I was tuning the PID control for the flow control valve, initially it was set up a little bit aggressive. The torque spikes I was getting were like between 15 and 1800 foot-pound when it come in too strong. I don't need a brake anywhere near this big, so once this engine's sorted, another thing that'll be getting done is I will pour some more aluminum and I will probably machine some smaller brakes because I want a smaller one, and I'll probably have myself a spare that if I do need something a bit bigger, I would still be pretty confident that it would hold the design that I've got would still probably hold at least 1,000 foot-pound. But this thing here is just, this is overkill, and the flow control valve is also way too big. The way I'm using this currently is I have water turned off to one side of the brake because inside it's mirror imaged. You've got the stator in the center, the rotor with the pockets in it, and then on both sides of that rotor it has sorry, you've got the rotor in the center with the pockets in it on both sides, and then the housings has pockets on both sides of it. So currently I have one side shut off completely. It's just absolutely fucking too much. Yes, so I would like to make some smaller ones, and the whole idea was I wanted an engine dyno, mainly because I ended up having a child and couldn't afford to build a hub dyno, but I will eventually. So I want to make some smaller ones, and I figured if I'm going to make them, I might as well make a few extras and sell a couple. I'm thinking something like $2,000 a piece, which is Australian, which is a hell of a lot better than the $10,000 US, which was the cheapest I could find, which is also still a pretty big break. But I couldn't really find anything smaller. Land & Sea's gone out of business, and there's not a hell of a lot out there, especially not that you can just get, order and buy. If you want to do your own thing. Also, like I said, the flow control valve is also way too big. It's a DN50 valve. I'm pretty sure it's like 50 mil bore. It's a 63 millimeter PN16 flange it's bolted up to. I'm thinking I could probably go back to like 32, something like that, something way smaller. But it is working, and it works very well, and it will hold RPM stable and can do power pulls, and it holds true to where it's supposed to be, so I'm pretty happy. Alright, now up here is where the magic happens. We have our yourdyno Ultimate V2 and a driver for the stepper motor and a few inputs on it. I got a bunch of other sensors that I haven't wired into it yet, just because it's not in a permanent setup, but we have got our 4 thermocouples and RPM and CAN bus and a whole bunch of other stuff wired in there already. I also, this big thing here is the accumulator. So to make sure that we don't get pressure spikes or dips, what happens is the pump fills this pressure. We have a bleed valve at the top here. inside of the bleed valve before it screws into this end cap up top. There's a really long piece of I think it's 20mm HDPE poly tube, like PN16 rated stuff. That runs down to about a quarter of the, 3/4 of the way down. So it fills up, the water level reaches the bottom of that, and then shoots up, blocks off the air bleed valve, and then the rest of it, as the pump actually starts to make pressure, all pressurizes, and it's basically like any other accumulator. It's just made out of poly. Now I'm going to try and find some video footage of it actually running. I was going to, as I said in my last video, I was going to do a video of like a start to finish tune. Apart from the fact that just while I was doing the E85 compensation tables, I started having troubles with this. Yeah, obviously pushing it hard and all the old carbon shit burning off and coming out of it caused a problem. While I was trying to make that video, OBS bit me in the ass, and I didn't realize I was too busy concentrating on what I was doing. I had one computer running the high-tech software, running the dyno software, and trying to record 3 separate windows, and the actual main window for the dyno software resets at the end of every run. So it literally caught me doing warm up and a little bit of steady state stuff where I was just tuning like temperature compensation and things like that, because I had idle and up to a few thousand RPM already sorted. As soon as I went to do like actual proper steady state tuning, every time you change it and it resets, like the window itself shuts down and reopens, and OBS didn't record it again. So I spent a couple of hours out here tuning this engine and didn't get like 90% of it. I did get some. I'm gonna try and find some footage for you, and I'll throw that up now. Okay, so I couldn't find matching video to go with this, but as you can see, I've got it set to 3000 RPM. I've just rolled into it. You see the EGT's coming up. You see the RPM holding nice and stable. You see how much torque it's making, and I think at some point I'll roll out of it and then get back into it. And yeah, you can see as the torque goes up and down, it's as I'm getting in and out of the throttle. Like I said, the yourdyno software works really well. Now I'll just throw up a video of the engine and you'll be able to hear it. It won't be this exact pull, but it'll demonstrate the same thing. Alright, see, you can hear it's just under light load, starting to roll into it a bit. Hear the engine sort of change note. As I go across the load table and open the throttle more, it's holding steady on the RPMs. Then you can hear me start to really roll into it. Still hold steady, and then starting to lift, and it goes back to idle. If you're into this sort of stuff, you want to see more, share it, subscribe, like it, leave a comment if you have any ideas. If it's anything reasonable and I can do it, I'm happy to give it a try. See you later.